Well, to all the participants and the committee members, you have made it. This is day 3, and we've got a really fun panel that's going to happen now with some great speakers who are going to share their wisdom on the topic of change. We've called the panel Revolutionizing Engineering Education, as you can see, and there are degrees of revolution, as you're going to hear. Logistics for today is that this panel is going to go till around 10, after which there's going to be some closing remarks, a little bit of a report out, and then my understanding is the buses are going to leave at 10:30, so we will be on the road at that point. But for now, for the next 90 minutes, we have 3 great resources here to talk about change. There are so many good ideas that have percolated to the surface and so much energy. And depending on where you are in your career path, you may or may not have experience actually trying to lead change at your institution. And so this panel is all about trying to figure out what that looks like at all different scales of activity, whether it's a sort of a local change or a more global change. And so our guiding question, what does change look like in an academic organization, and what can you do, what are some tools and strategies to either support a change or lead a change? And again, depending upon what you have in mind, it might be appropriate to play any of those roles. So our panelists are Kate Ziemer from Northeastern. She's all the way on your right. And then we have Maura Borrego, who's in the middle. And we have Maura's from University of Texas at Austin. And we have Elliot Douglas on your left. And I am Ed Berger from Purdue, and I'm not really saying anything other than to introduce the speakers. So with that, let's get straight to it. So Kate is going to begin. We have the panel arranged sort of in order of scale, kind of. So Kate is going to talk about some things that might be things that you can do with like 1 or 2 people and some good ideas and some energy. And then Maura is going to scale that up to sort of like more people. And then Elliot's going to talk about opportunities for even bigger scale, sort of a whole group within a department or a whole department kind of level change. So we've ordered it that way, and hopefully it will stimulate lots of questions for you. Kate.
Great. Thanks, Ed. So you guys have shared so many cool ideas at this conference, and I have learned so much from you about things you can do to impact the learning of engineers in your classrooms. So the big question that we want to challenge you with now is, how do we take that and make something happen beyond our own classrooms? How can we spread what you're doing to influence not only your students, but your department and the engineering education profession as a whole? And so I'm going to start with organizing my thoughts under 3 main themes. One of them is going to be know yourself and know how the future looks for you and for your interests. The second is to understand the culture you're in so that you can work within it for change. And the third is going to be that goals can often trump the rules. So when I say know yourself, and you all were selected to be here because you have already been identified as having the skills and the talents for really influencing engineering education and shaping it for the future. So nurture those ideas and expand them. How do you do that? You've started with networks here. Try to keep those networks going. You've started conversations on what does the next step look like. Say active learning is your big exciting piece that you like to bring into your classroom. What does the future look like for active learning? What happens when classes go online? What happens? Can you take active learning and think about it in a co-curricular fashion? So working on what you're doing, networking with others who are interested in that, and thinking, what does the future hold for that? Assess what you're doing and use that to get other people aware of what you're doing, to build your confidence and your credibility. Now, all of you are very capable of writing a very well-referenced, well-documented study on how what you've done in class has impacted your students and what the literature is behind it and getting it published in the ASWE journal. You're all capable of that, but it doesn't have to be that. You can start with a presentation at your professional society in the education division and find other people who are doing something similar to you and work together to invest the time and energy that it takes to put together a publication in ASEE. So you can start small and build from that to again increase your credibility and confidence in the community as a whole. And do that inside your own departments as well. Say you're teaching one class of multiple sections and you've got a great idea and you've tested it out and you really like it. Invite another professor from a different section to come and give you feedback on that. Not only will that person see what you're doing in the classroom, they may offer you something that will help you improve, or you may just change their mind a little bit. If you just get the conversation started, you'll be amazed what can happen. And a lot of that is going to be understanding your own risk tolerance. Well, this is just the National Academy, right? Nothing to risk here. It is not my style to sit behind a desk. Now, that's kind of a trivial example of taking a quote-unquote risk, because I'm not really risking much except maybe my tag showing, and Mara will think I'm a sloppy dresser. But on the other hand, being who you are can give you such strength. And as you gain your credibility and gain your experience, I would say you also need to reassess your tolerance for risk. And I would also say, in my opinion, it's our responsibility to push that risk tolerance as we gain our own confidence and our own credibility. After I got my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, I went to work for DuPont for 7 years as a process engineer before I went back to graduate school to get my PhD. So it is part of me to be very much embedded in how experiential learning can really enhance engineering education. And experiential learning in the broadest sense, whether it's open-ended questions, whether it's laboratory experiments, whether it's the integration of co-op and lectures into a curricula. So I chose Northeastern University because its culture is based on that. I can work within that culture to make the kind of changes that I want to make in engineering education. So wherever you are, be aware of what the culture is in your department, in your college. If your president is saying at the welcome new students or the graduation addresses, we want to be a global educator, find something within your passion that enables that to happen. Bring a suggestion to a department chair or a committee meeting. I would be willing to bet my seat on the bus that the 3 deans in this audience would love to have a faculty member come to them with an idea of how someone in their college can meet a goal of the president. All right? It's an opening in. It's a way of expanding your influence and making something happen within your passion. Another key, it doesn't have to be that big though either. Let's say that you're in a department where you feel like all the assistant professors need to really focus on research and bring in lots of money. Oh yeah, teach. Really focus on research and bring in lots of money. Oh yeah, teach. What can you do in that culture to make a difference to spread these ideas? You can go back and say, hey, I went to this conference at FOEE and I talked to somebody who actually got the students in their design class to do research for them. Hey, Mr. Researcher, who I'm having trouble communicating with because you teach the class after me and you make all my students bored. Let's talk about how we can get your students to actually do research for you. Find something in your culture that you can use to expand and go. Speaking of the research, goals can sometimes be more important than the rules. So if you think about a rule as that norm, that research is the one and only, the goal of the engineering education was able, by thinking about that goal without the boundary of the separation of research and teaching, many of you here were able to bring together those 2 goals and break a norm or a rule. Don't let the perceived boundaries keep you from trying something. And forgive me, I don't remember who said it, but someone said, bring the people in. You may know the history of this technology, but bring those people in. Let the face of the people who are the experts in the history or the societal context be the ones to provide the face to the students. Start building those interactions across the departments and across your colleges. We need to be the ones who can justify why that active learning makes an impact so that the rules don't govern what we do in the classroom, but we use what we do in the classroom to modify those rules. It's okay to have students not be in class one time a week because they're out doing service learning projects. It's okay to have my undergraduate students do research that I'm going to contribute to a paper on. It's okay to have a social science person come into my classroom and make something happen. The other thing about this idea of the rules is that I don't have any. I lost my train of thought. My apologies. Remember when I said risk tolerance here? Oh, dear me. So I guess on that, I should probably pass on to Mara here.